This afternoon, the university is privileged to present an honorary degree to a deserving person of distinction. Other than the earned doctorate, the greatest recognition the University of Florida can give an individual is an honorary degree. The awarding of an honorary degree is in recognition of eminent achievement in scholarship or high distinction in public service, which exemplifies the purposes and the very ideals of the University of Florida. I would ask Provost Joe Glover to present President Bob Lindgren, a leader in higher education, for the conferral of the honorary degree. Joe.
Thank you, President Machen. It gives me great pleasure this afternoon to introduce a higher education leader whose thoughtful, strategic, and unifying approach has greatly advanced the University of Florida and other universities, the President of Randolph-Macon College, Bob Lindgren. President Lindgren is truly a special guest on our campus today. He is a distinguished president of one of America's most outstanding liberal arts colleges. He is a Gator who earned both his undergraduate and law degrees from the University of Florida, and he is also a former UF leader who remains highly regarded here for his singular contributions. President Lindgren served as director and then vice president of development at UF from 1984 to 1994. During that time, he oversaw Embrace Excellence, UF's first capital campaign. The campaign began in 1985 with a goal of $200 million, considered wildly optimistic at the time. It concluded in 1990 after raising nearly $400 million. That was the third largest campaign ever completed by a public university and double what UF had raised in the previous 44 years. From educational and research programs to endowed faculty positions, Embrace Excellence continues to benefit our faculty and students to this day. At least as important, the campaign prepared the ground for even more ambitious and far-reaching efforts, including UF's current $1.5 billion capital campaign, Florida Tomorrow, which is now reaching its successful conclusion. In almost every respect, UF is a more comprehensive and higher quality institution than it was in 1984, and that is due in no small part to President Lindgren's leadership. The same skills then enabled President Lindgren to achieve so much for the University of Florida have also brought him success and acclaim in his subsequent career in higher education. From UF, he went to Johns Hopkins University, where he spent 12 years as Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations. There, he led two of the largest and most successful capital campaigns in American higher education. President Lindgren joined Randolph-Macon College as president in 2006. Since his arrival, applications have more than doubled. Alumni participation has soared to record highs. The university has implemented innovative strategic and campus master plans, and much more. President Lindgren has also been an active leader in the local, statewide, and higher education communities, serving on the board of the Greater Richmond Chamber of Commerce and as chair of the Council of Independent Colleges of Virginia, among many other organizations. The University of Florida is proud to recognize President Robert Lindgren today with the honorary degree of Doctor of Education.
President Robert Lindgren, we honor you for your many achievements that have benefited this university, your profession, the nation, and indeed the world. On behalf of the University of Florida, with the unanimous consent of the Faculty Senate and the Board of Trustees, and by the authority vested in me, I hereby confer upon you the honorary degree, Doctor of Education. Congratulations. Would Bob's family and friends who are with us today please stand so that we can recognize you? And now, Dr. Lindgren will deliver the commencement address.
We have all heard, "You can't go home again." But actually, it is not difficult to do if in your heart you've never left. Provost Glover, thank you indeed for that very kind and generous introduction. Lyndon Johnson had the same deep affection for a place as I have for Gainesville. Whenever he would return to Texas and hear a similar glowing introduction, he would say, "I only wish my parents were present to hear what you just said. My father would have enjoyed it, and my mother would have believed it." And more to the point, it is often said that behind every successful man, there stands a surprised mother-in-law. And I'm so pleased that my in-laws, the Connors from Ocala, could join us today, and I'm hopeful that my mother-in-law still believes as well. But I know for sure there is something that all of us here believe, and that is how lucky we have been, President Machen, to have had your superb and distinguished leadership as the 11th President of the University of Florida over the past decade. Thank you. Alma Mater is in good hands indeed, and I can tell you easily, if not superficially, why that matters to me. But what I'd like to do for the next few minutes is tell you why, at a deeper level, and much more important level, it matters to us all. That may seem like a difficult case to make. After all, you, Florida's gifted and accomplished graduates, have just spent untold years and incalculable effort working to be done. You have, by all accounts, done a magnificent job of it. And at some level, you may be thinking, "I'm done with that. This chapter is closed. It no longer matters." But I am convinced that what happens here and what will continue to happen when you go on matters very much. I am so happy, thrilled really, to be back to witness this panoply of achievement and success, in no small part because it is an opportunity to reconnect with my own youth. I came to Gainesville as a freshman and left after spending nearly all of my adult life here, coming of age, earning 2 degrees, meeting and marrying a wonderful woman, Cheryl Connor, herself having earned 2 UF degrees, starting our family and spending some of the most satisfying and important years of my working life right here on this campus. I am profoundly grateful to this place and to have received this most significant honor today. And I have been blessed to have known well nearly half of our university's presidents, starting with J. Wayne Wrights, our 6th president, who wrote the book on what it takes not only to be a good president, but a highly effective former president as well. Having now been around the university world, believe me, that is a special commodity. One of my favorite stories about Dr. Wrights occurred as we hosted in this building one of our major campaign dinners during my tenure here and long after his retirement. As he and Mrs. Wrights approached the welcome table, staffed by some of UF's most attractive and outgoing students, he announced characteristically, "I am J. Wayne Wrights." The somewhat flustered young co-ed behind the table responded, "My goodness, you must have been named for our student union." To which Dr. Wrights, with his characteristic graciousness and dignity, simply replied, "Yes, yes, I was." Wrights' successor was Stephen C. O'Connell, a devoted and steadfast leader who coincidentally was named for the building we're in today. He was president during my early student days here and was followed by Robert Q. Marston, a man of eternal optimism who bravely gave me my first job in higher education as his assistant. And Marston's successor, Marshall Kreiser, took a gigantic leap of faith by asking me to lead UF's entire development program at a time when I may have been too young and inexperienced to know any better. Marshall Kreiser's confidence in me changed my life. I'm deeply honored that Marshall and his wife Paula and Marshall's provost and interim successor Bob Bryan are all with us today. Please let me thank you three for all you have done for the University of Florida. President Kreiser was followed by John Lombardi, one of the most talented persons I have known in higher education, who led the successful completion of our first ever campaign here and then unselfishly helped launch me into another phase of my career. I mention all these presidents because each in his own way was an important mentor of mine, and mentors are so very essential to the positive development of any successful person. None of us would be who we are or where we are without our mentors. I know that you graduates have your mentors to thank for today's important milestone, including your faculty sponsors. And I encourage you to do just that. That is, thank them early and often for what they have meant to you. And I would go even further than that. It's not just saying thank you, it's living the thank you that matters. I like the words of John F. Kennedy, who said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. I call that living by your gratitude. And I trust that part of your living by your gratitude, now that you have reached the pinnacle of your academic training, will lead you to become effective mentors to others. You now have a most influential platform from which to do just that. And following your graduation, many of you will stay in the academy, associated by colleges and universities, either teaching or doing research, or I hope both. There are few opportunities for service today which are more important to our future. Even those of you who go into the private sector or public or nonprofit work will also, by the dint of your doctorate, be forever linked to our system of higher education, and in particular to the University of Florida. And it will be on your shoulders to preserve and strengthen both. For you see, America's system of higher education is under siege today. Colleges and universities are being taken to task for not giving students a fair return on their increasingly expensive investment, and by the fact that students and families now owe more in college loans than ever before. Some argue that college graduates are not being adequately equipped with skills in communication, critical thinking, and analytical reasoning. These critics have their points. There is always room for improvement, but the fact remains that our system of higher education in America remains the envy of the world, preparing each new generation not just for jobs, but for meaningful lives, while at the same time still serving as a prodigious engine of discovery and still the most effective ladder of opportunity for anyone willing to work hard and open their minds. And now more than ever, the challenges we face in this country and in the world today require men and women more steeped in the liberal arts. That is, from the Latin artes liberales, having greater understanding of what free citizens should study and know. Two higher education stories have dominated our airwaves this summer. In one from my home state, a relatively new president was asked to step down abruptly by the University of Virginia Board of Visitors, only to be reinstated almost immediately thereafter. And the grotesque saga from another distinguished public university, Penn State, has riveted all of us as it became clear that the basic human values espoused by this long-admired institution were shamefully cast aside. These experiences remind us of how important it is for institutions of such significant influence as the University of Virginia and the Pennsylvania State University, and yes, the University of Florida, to remember always that higher education is not a business. It is not an industry. It is a societal trust. And the fact that we wear robes today, like judges, like clergy, reminds us that at some very deep and important level, it is a sacred trust, which is the reason I think James Madison observed, learned institutions ought to be favorite objects with every free people. Last fall, I had the opportunity to join a small group of liberal arts presidents for a dinner with New York Times columnist David Brooks. He described to us a survey he had recently conducted of Americans, of mostly folks in today's grandparents' generation, the likes of many of whom are in this place today, celebrating your wonderful accomplishments. A survey to find out what helps lead to a life of satisfaction and achievement. Brooks used this information in his latest bestseller, The Social Animal. His research led him to two important things he said we should absolutely teach our students in our colleges, the two things that would best lead our alumni to lives of greater satisfaction and achievement. First, he said we ought to teach them how to better select the right person to marry. Well, I don't know exactly how we do in that department, although I see a few heads nodding out there. But his other recommendation I found relevant even for postgraduates. That is, we should teach students how to be more resilient. Brooks believes resiliency is a characteristic with particular meaning to Americans. And the most satisfied of his survey takers, remember these were mostly individuals from our grandparents' generation, were folks who were not unfamiliar with challenges and obstacles and setbacks, but rather the very most satisfied and successful were those who faced challenges and overcame them, who experienced setbacks and even failure and kept going, kept striving, kept achieving. Those of you receiving these impressive degrees today have already shown you understand this. No one earns a doctorate from the University of Florida without demonstrating enormous resiliency. With the help and devotion of your families and loved ones, you have persevered here during one of the most challenging economic periods since the Great Depression. You have earned, and I underscore that word earned, your degree from an institution that still believes in the value of rigor, of high standards, of high integrity, and I salute you. In going forward, my message is quite simple. Never let setbacks defeat you. As Walt Disney said, the difference between winning and losing is most often not quitting. One of the most resilient persons I know is Michael Bloomberg, who at the age of 39 and the very pinnacle of the financial world was unceremoniously fired from Salomon Brothers. Rather than lamenting his loss, he has, as we know, gone on to form Bloomberg LP, become a billionaire and remarkable philanthropist, and now mayor of New York City. He recalls thinking to himself on the day he was fired, "Let's get on with it. Here's where you are today. What do you do next?" And his life philosophy is expressed by one of his favorite sayings, "How bad a day can it be when you're looking at the right side of the grass?" My favorite story about resiliency and the choices people make in the face of severe challenges is about an extraordinary individual touched by my other two institutions, Randolph-Macon and Johns Hopkins. Paul Nyantaji came to the U.S. from Ghana in the late 1980s with literally just the clothes on his back. His local village had taken up a collection to send him over, but upon arrival, his plan to attend a small college in Arkansas didn't pan out. So he supported himself by driving a taxi in Washington, D.C., and taking night courses. Paul knew he was capable of more in life. He just needed a chance. So he scouted around for a college in Virginia, and his sights landed on Randolph-Macon. In his interview, he demonstrated such a powerful desire to learn that our admissions dean simply had to find a way for him to attend. Paul worked as hard as any of our students. He was a pre-med major, worked 2 jobs on campus, and still returned weekends in D.C. to drive that cab. He graduated Phi Beta Kappa with a 4.0 grade point average and won a full scholarship to the Johns Hopkins Medical School. He went on to do his residency at Yale and his postdoc at the NIH. But it's what happens next that's most important. Following his education and training at some of the best colleges and health centers in America, Paul could have written his ticket in academic medicine anywhere in the United States, joining the trend of his fellow countrymen. I am told there are more Ghanaian physicians practicing medicine in the United States than there are in Ghana. But Dr. Nyantaji took another route. He is now back in Ghana as a practicing physician, having established by himself 5 clinics spread around the country in which he provides mostly free health care to his countrymen. And when a group of Randolph-Macon students visited Ghana recently, he made a special trip to travel across country to Ghana's capital city just to speak to them, to tell them his story. And with tears rolling down his cheeks, Dr. Nyantaji concluded his remarks by saying, "I will never, ever be able to repay the opportunity I was given in the United States of America. All I could do was to come home to Ghana and to be of service to my fellow countrymen." Now there's an example for us all of the power of education, of resiliency, of a profound desire to give back, and of someone living by his gratitude. And I can think of no better way to conclude my remarks today than to use the words of the respected late host of Meet the Press, Tim Russert, who in his very last public appearance in May 2008 gave the following advice to Randolph-Macon's graduating seniors. "Have a wonderful life, take care of one another, and for the rest of your life, work hard, laugh often, and keep your honor." Work hard, laugh often, and keep your honor. And to that I would add, be resilient. I can't think of a better formula for success and happiness than that. Congratulations to you all. God bless you, and go Gators.
Thank you, Bob. It's sometimes said that you never remember your commencement speakers. I think you remember him, and especially what he had to say.